In this video, I'm going to dive into HubSpot memberships. I'll explain what they are, how they work, their limitations, and when you should and shouldn't use them. I'll also show you a creative use case that is using membership areas right now, which is HubSpot's own Inspire gallery that we built at Blend. And it shows how memberships can become even more powerful when you combine them with CRM pages, and really just shows you how memberships actually work themselves. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a great idea of what memberships can do for you and whether it's the right solution for whatever you're thinking of doing. All right, let's start with the basics. So HubSpot memberships is a Content Hub enterprise feature that essentially lets you restrict areas of your website and essentially pages in your HubSpot portal. And that means instead of all of your pages being public, you can decide that only certain people, only certain access groups as they're called, will be able to view specific pages in your portal. So that might be, paying customers, partners, internal employees, specific segments of your CRM essentially that can actually log in with their own credentials that they create and view specific content. So in terms of simplifying it down, it basically adds a secure logging in system to your HubSpot site or particular area of your HubSpot site, particular pages perhaps, without needing any external membership plugin or external site. You can do it all from inside of HubSpot, which is great, of course. There are two core ways that HubSpot memberships work, and it really depends on your needs and how you want people to access your restricted content. So option one is list-based access. So this is essentially adding people to a contact list inside of HubSpot. That could be an active list that's continuously adding people based on a particular contact property or a different criteria depending on that list. Or it could be a static list that you have to manually add people to and control on a more one-by-one basis. And this could be used perhaps to give individual customers access to particular things, if they've paid for restricted access content, or if they're a particular type of customer, maybe they've got a unique product or a different set of needs, then they might have access to this content in order to help them out. It could be used for an internal project, so you add everybody with your email domain, and once you've added them, it will fire off a registration email for them to actually sign up and finish the sign up process. The second option is to use self-registration, which is essentially allowing new users to register themselves through your own registration form, which is powered by HubSpot memberships itself. And when they do, essentially HubSpot will create a contact record for them and associate them with the membership access group if you set up the properties in the access group in that way. So you can basically, and I'll talk through this when we go through the Inspire gallery setup, basically say registration method within that access group is equal to self-registration, or then you could do registration invite if you wanted to go down that route, but self-registration will be the one that you want in that case, because they are registering themselves by submitting the registration form. And this is a better solution for where you want content to be openly available to people if they register. So it's not super restricted content that you only want particular people to see, because anybody can register in theory. So you want it accessible, but also there might be things behind that registration that then give them extra features or access to a dashboard or something interesting that allows them to then manage content or do things. Otherwise, why else would you want them to register for a part of your site? It has to have a feature behind it, of course, and that's a good way to manage that. It really gives you two options there to focus on: real closed communities or more open signups, essentially. From the end user's perspective, HubSpot memberships do just feel like any other member site, really. What happens after you either register yourself or you get invited to register? You'll get an email to register, or you find your way to the registration page. You set your password, you log in. If you forget your password, HubSpot handles and resets that securely. You can manage all of that through HubSpot membership still. And once you're logged in, you can then browse those pages that you set access to in HubSpot memberships, which I'll show you shortly, that non-members just can't see. And yeah, it's really familiar for the user, and it's really familiar for, HubSpot native users to manage that access group and, do particular things with that area that you need to do. Now, let's quickly touch on security, which comes up a lot when we think about HubSpot memberships and how we handle passwords and secure information. So HubSpot doesn't expose or store plain text passwords. Everything is encrypted and hashed, so even admins in the HubSpot portal can't see them. If somebody forgets their password, they can reset it through a secure link. No one can actually retrieve it. So for more advanced setups, you can also connect single sign-on or social login, so you don't have to worry about building authentication from scratch, but everything is totally secure for your users. Of course, memberships isn't a perfect solution for everything. It's really powerful, and I'll show you in the Inspire gallery how powerful it can be, but it's worth bearing in mind there are some use cases that just don't suit HubSpot memberships. So it's worth bearing in mind it's not a full community platform. If you want people to submit topics, upvote, engage, things like that, there aren't any, forum or chats or group features right out of the box. They would be, very advanced, custom built features that you would have to add on, and they're probably not the most intuitive to use for you or your users either. Permissions are also list-based and not role-based, so you can't set a page-by-page granular permission without, again, a bit more custom work and process involved. The design of the membership content itself is up to you. So HubSpot gives you that security layer. Memberships itself is literally out of the box. You can turn it on, and that will enable you to, register, sign in. But actually layering that system on your pages, so to add a sign-in link, a register link, all of those kind of things do require you to actually create that, and also design the login pages, the register pages, the forgot password, the emails, everything like that. And it's also worth bearing in mind that HubSpot memberships do allow you to layer in a lot of complex things, build dashboards, add in data from other places, but these do require custom integrations that ultimately, if you don't have the in-house resource, you would have to work with a partner to do that. And I'll show you some examples of how we've done that with Inspire Gallery to give you a flavor of what is possible. Okay, I've teased it a little bit. Now let's actually dive into the HubSpot Inspire Gallery and show you how that uses HubSpot membership areas and how we built it for HubSpot to do so in a lot of powerful ways. So HubSpot Inspire Gallery, just for context, is a showcase of great websites built on HubSpot Content Hub. It's like HubSpot's premier way of showing what's actually possible from a creative and technical standpoint to build websites inside of HubSpot. And we worked with them to rebuild this from a front end and also a back end perspective, and introduced memberships as a way for users of the platform, so submitters, ultimately agencies or individuals, to be able to upload their own submissions here, upload all of these websites themselves, and essentially have a seamless process of doing so. So you can see from front end perspective, it looks like, a kind of standard website. I can click into these pages and see individual submissions here. We get a nice iframe. None of this is actually using memberships. So let's talk, because this video is about memberships, about that specifically. What you'll notice on the top here is that we have this sign in button, and because I'm part of this portal, it's going to sign me in automatically. If it works correctly, it is, because it says I'm a HubSpot user. If I wasn't, then I would either have to register if I didn't have an account already, or I would just put in the password that I set to start with. But now I'm logged in, I have this tab here, which is called Manage Entries. But before we go into that, I'm actually going to show you a little bit more around the setup of membership areas, which will then give you context to what I can do when I manage entries. If you're a Content Hub Enterprise user already, you'll be able to navigate to memberships through the content tab there. And what I want to show you is just the settings behind the Inspire Gallery's membership here, just to give you an idea of actually how we're enabling people to actually become part of this group and access restricted content through that registration form. So if I go into edit here, what you can see is we're basically using a dynamic group here, because we want to say after somebody registers for that form, we'll set a CRM property and filter, and they'll just be self-enrolled. They'll just be coming into this group as they submit that registration form, basically. And if we hit next in here, we can see that the registration method that we're actually using, well, we're using two here, self-registration and also if they're on invite. So essentially both. But what we would primarily use here, that we're primarily using actually, is self-registration. So if they've submitted that registration form, registration method is equal to that then, and they will be set up as group members here. Now, actually going into the membership area itself, we'll kind of see how you set up that restricted content. And what amazes me about membership areas is it really is out of the box. It's very intuitive to set up. The actual kind of design and development of the pages in the area that you create is where it gets slightly more complex, but actually the tool out of the box is just incredibly easy to set up. So let's dive in. Now, I've just typed in blend here because I don't want to, reveal a load of email addresses, but you can see where we've tested here and things. But essentially, you'll be able to see all of the group members that you've got in a particular access group in here. And then you'll be able to set the members only content. And for the Inspire Gallery is all about restricting access to the pages that enable users to self-submit that content. So in here, we've got things like the dashboard that enable you to view all of your submissions, creating new entries, editing existing entries. Obviously, we only want people who are registered to be able to do that. I think the next thing we'll do is kind of have a look at the front end again, how this translates into the front end. But also you might be thinking, well, how do I then attach individuals in this member group to their individual submissions? So if they submit a new entry, then how do they view all of those in the dashboard? And we'll get onto that. So now, obviously, because I'm logged in, this link up here changes from login to manage entries, and we can set that in the back end to change based on your parameters and if you're logged in. So if I hit manage entries now, what I'm able to see is essentially my dashboard in HubSpot Inspire Gallery, and it says welcome back because I'm an existing user, and we've got that in there. And now I'm able to manage all of these submissions, and these are submissions that have been submitted by me, myself, or anybody actually at Blend. We've been able to connect their submissions, and this is a restricted area that you won't be able to get to unless you register via HubSpot memberships. And essentially from here, I can add a new site, as we saw, which will take me to this form, which again isn't accessible to the public. You would have to register in order to get to this page. So I can add a new site there. I can manage my existing entries. I can unpublish it or edit it, whatever I want to do here. So essentially, by enabling membership areas, I've given access to that group of contacts to then view this page, the add a site page, and this edit site page on this website. Now, where it gets really cool is how you can essentially tie in the contact, so the person who's part of that access group, and all of their CRM objects, associations, information, and tie that into what you present in the membership area. And that's where things get really cool and really powerful and enable you to think about a lot of use cases actually with memberships. Now, if we dive back into the CRM here, what I want to show you is how we've connected up that dashboard experience in order to display the entries, the Inspire Gallery entries with your user if you have submitted them or if your company submitted them. So here I've got an example, one of our developers, Gratchen, just chosen him as an example here. And what you can see is we've associated all of the Inspire Gallery entries from our company with Gratchen. So if he, as a contact, then is enabled into that access group inside of memberships, he will then have access to see and edit all of the Inspire Gallery entries from our company. And again, this kind of expands the thinking behind really what you can do with memberships and what you can really display. This could be anything. It doesn't have to be, Inspire entries that are then generated via this form. It could be events that you have upcoming that you associate a contact to and you only want them to see. It could really be anything. It could be, contact information from properties. It could be associated objects and information from them that you then pull into a restricted area for them. So really, this kind of connection and then displaying CRM information in a membership area makes you think of a lot of possibilities, and it's really exciting. And just what we've done with the Inspire Gallery gives a lot of potential and insight to people to think, actually, we can do more here than just display some basic content in a restricted area. We can actually display personalized information that we have about this person in in a membership area inside of HubSpot, which is really, really cool. So if you're thinking about using memberships, now you've kind of seen what's possible, heard what's possible, these are probably common use cases that I would think about where memberships are really good to use. So you've got customer resource hubs, partner portals, premium content libraries, internal access to things, or personalized dashboards or personalized views of content. Those are really the areas I would be thinking of and focusing on when thinking of HubSpot memberships. But really anywhere you want to restrict content and maybe display very personal information, even to that level, to particular contacts in your CRM, HubSpot memberships is going to be a pretty good option for you. And it's out of the box. You probably already have access to it. If not, it's just a case of having more HubSpot, which is always a good thing. Having more access to features that can, power your growth is great. So to wrap things up, HubSpot memberships is a very, very powerful feature for restricting content and building logged in experiences. On its own, it's great for, any kind of simple gated resource to a list of contacts. When you combine it with HubSpot CRM and dynamic pages as part of that, it really becomes the foundation for amazing customer experiences or portals that can drive incredible engagement and loyalty and functionality that you just didn't have access to before. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with HubSpot memberships. Hopefully this gave you some insight into what's possible and has enabled you to think about how you might be able to use it in the future.